long-winded. I talk a lot. So.
I love it. It's great. It's great. Well, unfortunately, this has been just tragic news week in terms of, there's been a lot of good. There's been a lot of ugliness. It's hard to even sort of wrap our heads around it in some ways. So let me just start by asking you, just how are you processing just all the things that are going on really coast to coast right now?
I think the only answer to that is processing.
Yeah.
Continuing to think about it and be grateful for it. I have a lot of emotions. Like I feel grateful, I feel mad, I feel angry, I feel sad. I'm mourning, I'm proud, and I'm ready. Like there's just all these feelings kind of just put you in a place of like, however you felt, and I'm talking to myself, however, Royce, however you felt, empty or drained or tired, get over that, because there's work to be done, and there's people to talk to, and there's conversations that you have to continue to have. I'm I haven't been awake all my life. I've been Black all my life. There's been moments where I woke up. I remember when I realized that I was a different color, and it didn't mean the same as everybody else. In kindergarten, I remember that moment. I remember realizing into my teens that something was going on that I didn't understand, but I thought it was over. And then, to be honest with you, it took the death and the murder of Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge that brought me to tears, that brought me to an awakening. And it really sucks to say that it took a knee on the neck of George Floyd's neck to shake the world, to be at a tipping point of something's wrong, obviously. And everybody wakes up at their own time.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, things are revealed to people, personally in different ways. And so I have tons of feelings, but I know what I'm good at. And I know that everybody has a role. And when you have a role, you have to stick to it, and you have to shake off how you're feeling, and you have to continue to move forward. Because although this is a scary time for some, a sad time for some, an angry time for some, and just a really confused, I don't know what's going on time for some, that all means change. That all means I'm uncomfortable. And when you're uncomfortable, you grow. So I don't think people should try to put away these feelings of what's going on. Like, get uncomfortable so you can grow. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned kind of your role, your kind of standing in that place. Can you speak to that a little bit in terms of I guess the positives and negatives of, do you feel maybe pressure or concern about do you feel like you need to speak up, you need to say certain things, you need to represent a larger community? Is there, like, I don't know kind of where you stand on that in terms of embracing that, or just needing more time for yourself to process. Like, where are you?
I definitely think everybody has to take time for themselves to process. I think everybody has to take some time to figure out how they can refill themselves. Um, because it's everything is bigger than you. Everything is bigger than me. And so even the way I live my life, like even down to my marriage, like um, I realized that statistically speaking, marriage is rough when you look at the numbers. I realize statistically speaking that marriage is even more rough in the Black community when
Mm-hmm.
you look at the numbers. And so even when I look at my marriage and I'm having a tough time, I think about this is bigger than me. I want to be a part of the changing numbers so the numbers can continue to change.
Mm.
So I kind of look at things like that in all of my life. When I get on Facebook, when I agree to talk to you, that I look at before I say something, I'm going to make sure that me is out of it because you can get points across without damaging someone. Excuse me. Um, so I said that to say that everybody has to take time to refill themselves. Everybody has to take time to refocus and regroup. As far as roles, I think everybody has a role. Some of them might seem more important than others, but they are all so very important. Um, Nobody knows who encouraged Martin Luther King's father to do what he did. Nobody knows who encouraged Martin Luther King Jr. to do what he did. That person might not seem very important, but if you ask me, he's one of the most important people. Because if that person didn't walk by Denzel Washington and say, "You're going to be great one day," we would have no Denzel Washington. You get what I mean? And so I think that everybody has a role, and you have to play it, and you have to figure out what that is. I do feel pressure sometimes. Like even right now, I feel a bit pressure. I have to speak at a rally downtown or a visual, and I feel a bit of a pressure because no matter what you do, someone's going to have something to say about it.
Mm.
Um, for instance, this visual right now, this rally, isn't by definition a protest. But I am okay with that because not everybody is going to have the courage enough to go to a protest. And some people that are just waking up, that don't know the history of the scars and the hurt and the systematic depression and all these different things. They're the ones that are going to go to something like a visual. They're the ones that are going to go to something like a remembrance. So then you have some people that are saying, don't go to this because you should go to the protest. I'm not saying that one of these things are wrong or bad. What I'm saying is that um, sometimes folks need an introduction into what they should be doing. And if going to a visual is a good introduction to help someone go to a protest or to help someone say, okay, I didn't actually know I can be emailing and calling and sending letters to my elected officials. I need to understand better how to vote for um, local government. Because when you think about it, not when you think about it, when you talk to people, a lot of people don't understand the magnitude that local government plays on them. A lot of people only just think, Capitol Hill and what's happening there. So, so that was just one example of like just feeling some type of pressure from different sides. But me, I have to stay focused on, okay, there is someone to be spoken to, and you have to speak to that person. Um, I feel a lot of pressure sometimes to choose organizations. Um, choosing sides is not choosing organizations. And I was trying to explain that to someone earlier, because some people feel like, well, if I say this, I'm saying all of these other things. And we could let's take it away from this magnitude for a second, and let's just maybe just talk about something that's a little different, like Sprite and Coca-Cola. Like, wait, no, Pepsi and Coca-Cola, two different companies. Most people know them as two different companies. So when you go into a store, you say, hey, do you have Coke products or Pepsi products? Or did I say that wrong? Is it Sprite products or Pepsi products?
No, you got it right. Pepsi products and Coke products, yeah.
Yeah. Because you like Coke doesn't necessarily mean you like all of the products that Coke makes.
Right.
Because you like Pepsi doesn't necessarily mean you like all of the products that Pepsi makes. I think people have to stop using that as an excuse to not show up. It's about the numbers in justice and injustice. And so there's lots of pressure out there. I said that to just say, like, there's lots of pressure in the Black community and the people of color community and the civil rights community of just all these different things going on. And sometimes you'll have people getting so, worked up that you're not even talking about the issue anymore. You're just talking about, are you on my side? And so the point of what I'm saying is that there's lots of pressure. I think everyone, including myself, we have to step back from sometimes and we have to regroup. And I do believe that everybody has a role to play and you need to play your role. The louder the voice is, that's when things happen. You know what I mean? Like PTA meetings at school, people that have kids, you understand that if you want to see change, you have to make the school hear you. And if the school wants to see change, they have to make the school board hear them. And so, it plays the same role in every single way. You know what I mean? So I hope I answered that question pretty good. I kind of talked about a lot of things, but is there pressure? Yes. Is there roles to play? And do I feel like I need to speak to a larger community? Yeah. To add to that, what I've kind of learned that I'm good at, and I think just because of how my music tells stories and how my music and who my music delivers to, I've learned that I'm really good at talking about Black issues to white people. And that's my role. And so no matter, I'm getting text messages from friends that are just like, you sounding really humble, make sure that, they know that this has been going on and this has been going on. And I'm like, yes, I understand that. And there's so many different things that people could have been doing to help. There's so many things that I could have been doing to help before 2015, because 2015 is when I actually woke up. And so I'm trying to remind myself too, is that like people are still waking up to what's going on and they're trying to figure out what they can do to help. And we have to be patient and point them in the right directions to build this country that we love,
Absolutely. Yeah. So two big issues I want to talk about. One coming up in a minute or two is to talk about the white community and your thoughts about what we can do. But you did talk about your songs and how they speak into people's lives. And I'm wondering is there a particular song that you've recorded that that you sense is poignant for this moment, and kind of how do you feel like it can maybe help us maybe turn our eyes and ears to like align with this moment in history and sort of the lyrics you maybe even wrote years before it, and how it all kind of weaves together now?
Yeah, there's quite a few songs that kind of come to head, and songs that people have just kind of been texting me saying that they've been listening to. Um, Write It on the Wall is a older record of mine that takes the element of hip hop, and most people think I'm talking about like graffiti or writing on the wall, actually. But when I wrote the song, it was actually talking about our Facebook walls, our Twitter walls. And the lyrics say, you know, I see folks hurting, trying to find their way. Protect me. The world's going out of control. Protect me. The lyrics go further to say, gunshots, dream killing. We do hashtags and buy t-shirts and say it's over. The thing that we need to be saying and understanding and living out is God is love and love is real. And I think if we actually start thinking about those words, thinking about what love is, then it will remap the way we live our lives. If you say you love your country, you're not talking about the ground outside or the flag. You're talking about the people, all of the people, the white people, the Asian people, the indigenous group that we talk about, the all different backgrounds, and the Black people. And if that's hard to say, then there needs to be a conversation. If it's hard to say that that there is, I can see that there is a group that feels discounted, disenfranchised. I need to be able to speak into that. And I can't speak into it if I don't know. And if I don't know, then I don't love. And that's the thing that we have to understand. If you can't go into any relationship and say, hey, baby, marry me, she's going to say, you don't know me. And then he's going to say, okay, well, I want to know you. And then she's going to say, well, you need to hear me. And then he's going to say, okay, baby, well, I don't really want to hear you. And she's going to say, then you don't really want to know me. And if you don't really want to know me, then you don't want to love me. And Martin Luther King said that the riot is the language of the unheard. And if you're not hearing me, then I'm angry. And that happens in every argument. We get upset inside our friendship arguments, our football team arguments, our marriage arguments, because you're not hearing what I'm saying. There's another song where I kind of talk about to keep moving. It says, I was born in a world where the people get lost. There's a murder every day and the store is raising up the cost, but I can't lose sight as long as I'm alive. I got to keep moving. I'm going to do it till I die. And it just kind of tells these stories of disenfranchised thinking. And I think that when people listen to it, they should be able to maybe try to find humanity in some of the thoughts that are coming from that story. I talk about, two people in my life that just kind of felt like they couldn't do well because of their community, because of their skin color. Another song that a friend of mine texted me this morning saying I've been listening to it all morning in the grieving process of trying to understand how I have not been helping my brothers and sisters, is a song I wrote called Skin Tone. And it talks about a little girl who is trying to explain to her grandmother, and her grandmother understands, but a little girl is trying to explain to her grandmother that I don't want to go to this new school because nobody looks like me. I don't want my knees showing. I need different hair. I need to, I don't like the hair that I have. I need to look like these other people, because as I walk down this magazine aisle, the people that seem to matter don't look like me. And the chorus says, I'm loving your skin tone. I'm loving your skin tone. I'm loving your skin tone. And I made that chorus that simple because I wanted people to just start saying it. Just start saying that. I'm loving your skin tone. I'm loving your skin tone. I'm loving your skin tone. So they can become, attached to the story and to the feeling. So those are two of the, three songs that kind of come to mind right now. Really, there's, many more that I can kind of pick through, but yeah, those are the three that kind of come to mind right now.
That's awesome. All right. So, as weird and awkward as this is, let's just give each other a little bit of permission to say, you can speak for the entire Black community if you want, and and I will somehow speak for the entire white community if I want. But I think I do represent a voice of the white community that has always been against racism, wants it to end, acknowledges that no matter what my desires are, there's prejudices in me that are systemic, just like racism can be a systemic thing, and maybe I have in some ways turned a blind eye to certain things that I shouldn't, and so I think that this is a time for me to recalibrate, repent, realign. Um, but you know, what what is your hope for the white community? How do you want us to respond? Um, Especially those of us who want this to end, who want who don't want to see the statistics that we're seeing in the Black community, that want an end to um, the outward mistreatment of the Black community, especially Black men, by those in authority, those who are wearing badges, those who are wearing uniforms. Like, you know, some of us kind of just don't even know how to respond, don't know what to say, don't want to even get in the way sometimes.
Yeah.
So what's your word for us?
The first thing I would say is we do not need or want you to feel guilty. The minute you feel guilty, you stop helping. That's for anybody because you feel like it was you feel like it was personal. Take it away from that. It is in the fabric of the nation, and that's where everyone needs to devote their energy. This nation was founded by insecure people who put their knees on the necks of the Black community to build the nation. That is what we need to be focused on. The minute that you feel guilty, the work doesn't get done. So that's the first thing. Don't feel guilty. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about your family. Second thing is to use your privilege to stand and get in the way. Use your privilege to stand and get in the way. I tell a very quick story. While I was on the Jeremy Camp tour, I became very good friends with Sean Groves, a really cool thinker. He lives in Nashville. You guys should possibly connect.
Yeah.
He came to me and asked me my Black story, which was interesting because no one's ever asked me that. And it actually made me think. The reason why he came to me and asked me that Black story is because he just had adopted a brown-skinned boy from India, but he's a brown-skinned boy.
Mm.
And he's realizing that there might be something I need to be teaching him that my white kids never needed to know. And that was a mission of, I see where the privilege comes into play. We talked. Later during the tour, coincidentally, well, I don't find it coincidentally, I'm just saying that to be funny, but later in the tour, the show 2 days after the 2017 elections, presidential elections, in a church lobby, I was confronted with racism. Um, to make a longer story short, the man made some very racist comments. Him and his wife laughed. They weren't said in silence. They weren't whispered. It was at my CD table after the show. And I nodded and laughed it off. While a friend of a Puerto Rican friend of mine said he could see the hurt, and even him, a brown skinned person, was like, I felt like you couldn't say anything, and I didn't know what to say either. So, and at these shows, there's, in between 3,000 to 7,000, white folks is mostly his demographic. Um, and a lot of times me and, a few people on the crew might be the only 2 or 3 Black people in the room. Later that night afterwards, I spoke to Sean about this. Not in a way of anger, and not in a way of, you see what happened. I was just talking about this experience. And let's put a pin in that real quick. The reason why I wasn't in anger, and the reason why I didn't say, you didn't see what happened, and that is because this is a day-to-day thing. This is every day when I wake up, I have to remember that I'm Black, and I have to remember I have to act a little different to make sure that prejudices that might come from movies or TV or from parents or from whatever people think about a Black guy with dreads don't rise. I hope everyone who's listening can understand what I'm saying by that. Basically, what I'm saying is that not even when you get pulled over, like when I walk into Walmart, I have to make sure that I'm not being too loud, because I want to make sure that no one thinks it's not a disturbance. If there's a elderly, white lady walking down the street, I will move to the other side of the street because I want to make sure she feels okay. So what I'm saying is that when I was speaking to him, that's why I was speaking to him in a way of like, this is every day. You know what I mean? I had to laugh it off. I couldn't confront the person's racism inside a church lobby because, to be honest with you, I didn't really feel comfortable and safe that I wouldn't come off as the victim, that maybe I would come off as, what did you do? And what did you say? And maybe I would have a problem on my hands instead of someone defending me. So anyways, he did something. I'm trying to tell the story really fast. Are you still following me, kind of?
This is great. Yeah, keep going.
Okay. So anyways, I told this to Sean, and Sean did something. Every night after the shows, or anytime I was standing at the CD table after that, he came and he stood by that CD table with me because he wanted to make sure that I felt like I had an ally that could have my back. So if something like that happened again, I could call out hate in its face. I think that is what the white community can be doing, is getting to know. First, you have to know your brother and your sister. You have to know where they are, how they're doing, where they come from, their roots of what's hurting and what's happening and what needs to change if you want to know what's going to change. And then you have to stand. I appreciate that so much. For the first time anyone's ever done that for me, appreciate that so much. And I hope people that are listening really hear what I'm saying. That someone said, you know what, that was wrong, that was racist. And the only thing that I can think to do right now is I'm just going to make sure that if something like that happens again, we're going to call it out. And I'm going to be there to call it out with you. And I'm going to say it's wrong. And you need to be removed from your position and such and such and such and such. The man that did that is actually a pastor. What I think the white community should be doing is not feeling guilty. Learning what needs to change, because a lot of us don't know what needs to change. And that's going to take getting to know your Black brothers and sisters. I know a lot of us say, oh, we have Black friends, but think about it when you say that, like, who comes over and sits at your table? Who can change the temperature at your AC unit? Normally your friends that can go in your house and change the AC unit are very close friends. That's what I'm trying to say. Organizations, churches, when you look around your board table, who is represented there that can go change the AC for the whole church building? Mm-hmm. Who is represented inside your small business, your startup, your company? If Black people aren't represented there, then Black people will not have any representation. And then we have to get out and we have to stand. We have to stand on the street corner protesting with our brothers and sisters. We have to stand in writing our elected officials. We have to stand in knowing who we're voting for. I was talking to an elderly white man in a Starbucks about 2 years ago, and he just stopped me and said, for no reason, I don't know this person, Adam. He didn't tell me his name. He just stopped me and he said, I want you to know that I voted for Obama, not because I thought he was going to do something for me, but because I thought he was going to do something for you. You know, there's a scripture that tells us to, like, sometimes, I forget where it is at the moment, but it tells us to treat your brother, your stranger, your foreigner better than yourself. Mm-hmm. Think of them higher than yourself. Do nothing with vain or selfish intention. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I was thinking about that, and I was just like, you know what? Sometimes we need to get out there and use your vote to better your community and better your city. A lot of us, even me, I have tried to use my vote or my voice to better my pocket, because I think a lot of people are thinking about the bottom line for themselves and for their family, which is understandable. But what I'm trying to tell the white community as well as the Black community and every other community is that we have to vote for our community. We have to vote for our city. We have to vote for our country. And if we're going to love our country, we need to vote that way. We need to call. We need to protest. I know there's moms out there that are like, I don't want to go to a protest with my kids. That feels unsafe. They're trying to figure that thing out. That's great. Protest by writing letters and calling and standing and saying this is wrong. And so I think that is definitely a starting point. There's other things that, you know, white community can be doing to break systemic racism. I just thought it was amazing. There's my sister-in-law online, this young lady was saying, hey, I really want to know what to do. I don't know what to do. I've been doing this, and this. What else can I do to help? And my sister-in-law said, it sounds like you've done a lot. Another thing that I think you could do is you could try to support Black businesses, possibly find a Black bank and put your money into it.
Mm.
And hilarious, 30 seconds later, the lady says, OMG, never thought about that. Moving my money tomorrow.
Mm. That's great. Wow.
And I just really loved that there is a good path for social media. Because a lot of times you see social media as being, fighting. But I think information and love can be shared through social media.
Mm. Yeah. All right. So I have one more easy question and one more hard question that I'm not even sure I should ask or not.
Ask it, please.
Yeah. Okay. I will. I've been trying to listen to a lot of Black voices. I mean, long before this week, but in fact, some of these statements came from before this week, but are so prevalent to us today, and it has to do with protesting and rioting, and it's been really challenging to me because I think that there's some people in the white community, if I can just sort of paint a broad brush, and especially the Christian white community, that applauds protests as long as they are 100% peaceful and everyone is in their place, kind of a thing. And I don't think anybody I don't think anybody in any community is outwardly supportive of the destruction of property and the looting and things like that. However, one of the things that I've been hearing from the Black community is that change cannot happen without some unrest and disturbance, and sometimes that even can be a violent disturbance, and so I've been really kind of processing in my heart, not even to kind of rush to judgment when things do get wild and destructive at times. And so I don't even know if you want to speak into that, but I'm kind of inviting you to share
Yeah.
thoughts on sort of the idea of protest and riot.
Yes. So the idea that the majority of, there's a curve of people. So if I was teaching a class, I would draw on the board this curve. Am I still here? Something just
Yeah,
popped up.
I'm hearing you.
Okay.
Like a bell curve.
Yeah. And the majority of that curve is here. Want to believe otherwise. Want to say protest is good, but it needs to look like this.
Mm-hmm.
And normally those folks are the folks that won't even go to a protest.
Mm-hmm.
A protest is not built to not start a disturbance. And when I say disturbance, I do not mean riot. I'll say that again. When I say disturbance, I do not mean riot. When a protest is happening, it's for city leaders to have a disturbance in their day-to-day planning.
Mm.
City leaders, they wake up in the morning, they have coffee and I'm going to do this, and this. And what people want is a knock on the door. Boom, 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 boom. The roads are cut off. There's such and such. There's something happening. It's for city leaders to be disturbed in their day that they can't get what they're trying to get done because they need to focus on a problem that has been left unheard. Do protests get out of hand? Yes, lots of things can get out of hand. The reason why most folks don't understand when things get out of hand is because they can't see themselves doing it. But if I told you that, talking to a friend of mine, if I told you that I came home and I walked in and my wife was in bed with another man and I jumped on him and I beat his face in and he can't see anymore, you wouldn't say, how could you do that?
Right.
I guarantee you 99.9% of men and women would say, he had it coming. Mm-hmm. Yes, she's in the wrong too. But the point that I'm making is that folks can understand that, they can see that, they can empathize with that. I think some folks need to learn each other so they can empathize with what's happening in the protests and even empathize with what's happening in the riots. Are there opportunists looting? Yes. Is there planned disturbances by many different sides to do something wrong? Yes. I was just on a a Zoom call with about 20 Black leaders in major cities talking about what can we do to put a rest to the looting. And the main thing we got up with was we have to outnumber the opportunists. We have to outnumber them. And if people are staying home and they're afraid to go out, then nothing changes. And you can't outnumber them by 5. You can't outnumber them by 20. You have to outnumber them by 30, 40, 50 people saying, yo, you just bust that window. What the heck are you doing? And in Oakland, I was talking to a friend of mine, they're seeing change like that. They're seeing people saying, okay, I'm going to trust you and I'm going to come out because you're telling me I need to outnumber. We're going to hold signs, we're going to protest, and we're going to stand for injustice. And we're all going to say, yo, that's not cool. Come on. So I would also say that to folks too, is that you want to see the looting stop. You want to see those things stop in your city. Get out there and protest and outnumber the misguided anger. Yes, everybody's angry, but outnumber the misguided anger. I think people need to also learn some things. You know, I was talking to a group of white friend of mine, and I said, do you know what I mean when I refer to Black Wall Street or Little Africa or Tulsa? And a lot of them didn't. And I showed them pictures. And as they saw pictures, I think they began to empathize with the anger and the hurt and the abuse. Folks that are listening, please go look up any 3 of those things I said. Black Wall Street, Little Africa, Tulsa, Oklahoma. For those who don't know, the streets were bloody in Tulsa. Tulsa was the reason why people were calling it Little Africa is because during the times of segregation, Black people came together and they started investing and working and built a community of not just like little homes, but mansions and businesses. And they called it Black Wall Street because the Black wealth amongst that community was becoming immense. And Black people were moving to Tulsa because they weren't going to be redlined where they can go to the right school. They weren't going to be able to get a good job and get a good house. They were going to be able to get a loan. Some people don't even know that people weren't able to get loans. And the systemic oppression goes back and forward. My parents didn't even know what equity was until I learned what equity was. I am now a homeowner, and there's so many things I don't know. Since 2018, I'm now a homeowner. And 2018 is when I learned what equity was. 2018 is when I learned what the value of owning land was, the value of how America works with loans and LLCs and how to grow wealth for your family. I'm telling this to my family. I'm having people come over and say, hey, this is what I'm learning about credit. Our whole lives, we've been told credit is bad. Don't have it, don't get it, but they were wrong. This is what the wealthy is building wealth on. What I'm saying while I'm saying that is, I'm on a Zoom call, baby. Oh. What I'm saying while I'm saying that is that there's so much that we need to start dissecting and uncovering and learning. I would challenge whoever's listening, white or black, that might not know, because I didn't, like I said, I didn't know until my late 20s, to look up Tulsa and see how the white community in Tulsa rioted, not on oppression of themselves, but rioted on the fact that they didn't like a wealth that they were seeing. Burned down, I think it was over 17 blocks of just mansions and homes and businesses. There's interviews on podcasts of toddlers and teenagers and black teenagers and black toddlers that remember seeing airplanes fly over their home and drop a bomb onto their home. I don't think people even realize that at one point, America flew airplanes over homes in Tulsa, black homes in Tulsa, and dropped bombs on them. I think that when people start to uncover some things, they'll start to understand the unrest that's been boiling and stretching and flinching and scared and afraid. That's what I would say to those who are wondering, what is a protest? How to protest? Why are there riots? Am I condoning the riot? No. Do I understand the riot? Yes. Am I condoning you to beat the face in of the person that is having an affair with your wife? No. Would I understand it? Yes.
Right.
And so I think all of the things that we're talking about here go back to love and education. If you love somebody, you educate them. If you don't love somebody, you won't educate them. If you love something, you will become educated about it. You know, when you want to, learn how to be a grill master and make the best brisket, you don't just go buy some brisket and throw it on a grill. We're doing research to figure out how is the best brisket cooked, how's the best brisket made. When we want to start a garden, we don't just go buy seeds. We do research. What needs full sun? What doesn't need full sun? How deep do these roots need to go? If I want this to grow this way, how does this grow? If I wanted things to grow organically. So what I'm saying is, if you want to love the people and also make sure that you're including the Black community in the people, then you will find out what helps the Black community grow. And then I think a lot of people stop right there because a lot of people don't want to admit that the Black community is not moving or growing, that there is oppression there. I think some people don't want to say it out loud because, and I hope you guys are following me, because they feel guilt. And guilt is the thing that kills all of the work. Please don't feel guilt. Please don't feel guilt. please don't feel guilt.
It's good, man. Well, my last question kind of goes back to kind of what our DNA is, which is thoughtful music. So how in your life, it doesn't even have to be your music, but how in your life does music play a role in helping you to sort of process the world, process the news, process, even your faith? How does music interject into this moment?
For me, music is therapy. Music is an outlet. I've written songs that might not even come out because it was for me. Music helps me process a whole lot. And I think that I'm going to continue to use music to tell those stories, because music can help tell stories. You find a humanity in music that you can't find in everyday conversations. Some people that will probably, well, I hope this changes, but some people that would probably never talk to each other listen to the same artists, listen, dance to the same music, know the same words. And so there's something special about music that I think is healthy, and we have to continue to help that health grow. You know, I say this all the time. I don't think music changes anybody. I think people change people. I think music can be a catalyst on pushing people closer to the edge, but it takes the person to jump off.
It's great, man. Dude, thank you so much for your time. So good to talk to you.
You too,
This has
man.
been so refreshing, um, and we'll be praying for Tallahassee. We'll be praying for Florida. We'll be praying for you and your family. And if you definitely, if you need anything, any kind of support in any way, we are in your corner totally. So really, really thrilled that you were part of this.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right, peace. Take
Okay.
care.